Hi, everybody. This is your host, Kay Did. Welcome back to Hear Our Voices, where we tell stories, give resources, and change the narrative of homelessness. Thank you for coming back this week. I hope you're enjoying the content that we are putting out every 2 weeks. We know we have a different schedule. This year has been a long ride. It's been ups and downs and ads and not ad and things like that. But thank you for whoever's joining the family. I see a couple people joining here and there. I definitely appreciate it. We're trying to grow on all platforms. So if you can go over on YouTube, and if you hear me on YouTube, actually that community is actually growing, I think, the fastest out of all the ones that we have, and I really appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on TikTok. And if you have any concerns or any questions that you want us to help you with, definitely reach out to me. We have the most resources in New York City, but if you live in a different state and you would like to have information for that state or something like that, definitely DM me and I can help you as much as I can. I do know people in different sectors in different parts of the United States, so I'll try to help you to my best of my ability. But be mindful, I do live in New York City, so I have the most resources and connections there. If you would like to be a part of the podcast, definitely DM me anytime. And to qualify to be, there's only two ways to qualify to be a guest on here, right? One is that you've been in shelter or is in shelter right now, and that you have a child under 21 in any of the US states or territories, because the US owns a lot of land and property. So, yes, or if you're a person who works with the homeless or think that you have a resource in your back pocket that would help out people who are homeless or formerly homeless, we would definitely like to have you on here. And if you don't want to be on here, you can honestly just give us an email and we could just talk about your resource on here. And that's one way of doing that. There's many different things that we have with the people who work with the podcast. New Destiny has a new program coming out that helps families with DV. If you don't know, it's called 1515. It's to help people with supportive housing in DV. If you don't know anything about supportive housing, it helps you with like supports in housing and just the way it sounds. Usually people with um instability or different things like that. And that's usually the way of qualifying for that. But they realize that people with DV also go through their own stressors and um things in their lives that they had to survive. And now they're qualifying them to be able to get the same services, which I think is amazing. So definitely check those things out. If you're in a particular shelter in New York City, like I said, I'm sorry. Right now, we're very small, so we only give a lot of resources for New York City, and that's how we can do it at the moment. But if we get bigger, like if you guys follow us, share. I mean, it don't matter if they don't live in the US or not. Share, and definitely, that's a way us to get bigger and we'll be able to do more for you guys and get more information. That will be wonderful. So today, our guest, her name is Stacy, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how is life for her right now and where she is in her homeless journey, and to tell us a little bit about her story. But hi, Stacy. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, good morning. Of course, I'm Stacey. She already did that introduction. I am currently living in a homeless shelter in New York, Queens, New York. I have a son, he's 7 years old, and he's living with multiple disabilities. Such includes deaf blindness, chronic lung disease, brain defects, nonverbal, globally, developmentally, intellectually delayed. So you see, our situation is kind of not the ordinary, but I'm actually embracing it. I have been living in the shelter for the last 16 months. So far, oh Lord, it's tough. Um, tough. And my son being severely autism, I did forget to mention that it's not easy on him. Being, in a small zone, compact zone basically, because it's just one room. Actually live in an hotel, so we don't really have cooking facilities and stuff like that. So for him, it's kind of 10 times more difficult. You don't have space for his toys. You don't have space for a lot of things. Based on like safety concerns and all, it's not equipped for him. So, and then his autism journey. complicates things much more harder, which means lately we have to increase on his medications to try to get him to be on the calmer side because, as I said, the journey has definitely taken its effect on him. We, as I said, we're new to New York too, so that's a part of it too. I guess relocating, we're from Florida, so the relocation did take an effect, you know, the change in the weather, the season, you know, I mean, the different ethnicities, everything is just so different here. So that's something that, you know, trying with the train, we tried the train, it wasn't working out, the noise on the train, the crowd is just too much for him. The bus is too much for him. So, you know, everything for him is so, so different here in New York. Where resources are concerned, that's a whole nother story. It's very difficult to navigate because there was not much help in the beginning. And I think that's where a lot of things, the complications started. And of course, I'm a single mother. I don't have any relatives here. So it's just my son and myself. We have care managers here, but of course, if you don't do something for the love of the job, then you're definitely not going to enjoy it. So going to my care managers is like trying to push a needle, find a needle in a haystack, pretty much. So most of the things I try to navigate myself. You know, a lot of researches, a lot of Googles, a lot of different technical stuff to try to figure out how to navigate, how to get them in schools, the right, you know, he can't be around children because he's super aggressive. Just a few minutes ago, we just got a call from the school. Oh God, he's acting out. So even to have him in school is so difficult because, you know, I mean, total strangers, it's hard. Imagine a mom who has to do this like literally every day for the rest of his life.
Right.
So far life is super, super complicated. I'm not even gonna add homelessness to it because homelessness is like the hardest part of the journey. When you can't be able to provide. You know, I mean, you are always the best provider, and then one day life decided to make a 360 turn on you. And you have to be the functioning mother to a disabled, a special needs child, preferably. And you have to be functioning for yourself. So you have to maintain health, wealth, you know, financial independence, so many things while still being a 24-hour caregiver for your son. So it's technically super difficult. Working and all is definitely, I try to do like home crafts, but no success there. Candles, I write books, I did candles, I did clothing line, you know, everything, just about everything to be financially independent. It didn't work out, so we ended up in the homeless situation. His father.
I wanted to say you had a lot of information, right? I want to impact everything, and it's fine. We're here to help, not help, to listen and to see what's going on. You said a lot of different things. Um, you said that your son is disabled, right? Um, I think that's the word you used. I forgot the exact word you said right at the moment, but how? Obviously he was born. In the beginning, how did you realize this was happening? Can you tell from the beginning this was happening? Why did you move to like what kind of resources did you get from there?
In the beginning, in terms of from birth or from
Yes,
the shelter?
first.
From birth. All right. So he was due to medical negligence, he was born premature. The medical team that we have didn't understand how to care for him. So that's how we ended up with all these conditions.
Mm,
Everybody walked away. I had to suffice my right. So I had to put myself in a situation whereas I had to be self-sufficient now to try to navigate to figure out how to help him through his medical condition. He died 5 times and came back to life. And after the fifth death, I vowed to try to do everything in my power to have him live a life, you know, I mean, not being a special needs, but try to be as regular as possible.
right.
So the first time it was super hard. Where resources were concerned, we never had any help. I tried for doctors, I tried for different resources, but because it was a medical negligence situation, a lot of persons didn't want to be around my son or myself. So I was left to figure out how to navigate life. I was the one who diagnosed him with all his medical disabilities, because what happened is that after he was released from the hospital, the medical doctors did not want to accept responsibility. But I usually, you have a child that's blind, but
Right.
they can hear, or you have a child that can hear, or they're blind. But for him now, he's battling at the two toughest defects in terms of where communication was concerned. And then coupled with the autism now, make things super difficult.
Right.
So in school, there, as I said, the resources was harder. Then if the teachers are not trained enough to deal with him, I would have gotten calls like, okay, mom, Aiden. Okay, mom, Aiden. So you get calls like 50,000 times for the year. Separate from that, no, getting the persons to come in. You're talking about special funding. Having that funding now, of course, you have to go through so many hoops just to get, okay, let's get this person in. By the time the person comes in, like for example, a vision and hearing teacher, it was difficult to source somebody because that one person occupied so many schools. So, by the time we're supposed to have him into the system, you're talking about, okay, she's already overwhelmed. There was like, I think at that time, that's how I started Braille too, because there were so many, there was the blind teachers were limited, like literally limited. I think there was like probably two at the time. Well, I'm talking about within my time, there was two there. So you're talking about two persons who specializes in blind children occupying the entire school system, which
Wow.
was, well, not even the school system, but it's just like you'd have the Bronx area. So
Right.
you're not talking about like the Bronx area. So you'd have two blind teachers occupying all the schools for blind children. So what if you have 10 or 20 blind students? That what those two teachers have to make themselves multifaceted to fit all those children. So it was hard.
Right.
When you're talking about getting or for example, I wanted like home health, like persons to come into the home to give me some help, because some days I can't sleep, I can't breathe. It was difficult. Every time you apply, you're denied. By
Mm.
the time he's supposed to get home services to persons to come into the home to help me with him, like for example, just tutoring. Because when you send a child that doesn't communicate and he has to get speech therapy 4, 5, 6 times for the week, the teachers can't give you that. So you have to source somebody to come to the home to do that. You're
Right.
talking about at least 2 or 3 hours after school, because I used to do after school program. By the
Right.
time you're supposed to get the persons to come, that's difficult because some of them, that enough resources is not there for them to put gas in the car, because you're talking about the mileage, all of those stuff. You're talking about putting all that back into them to get. So it's like you have to get like a private, like those persons who do like private fundings, like have their organization. So I would have to reach out to the different organizations who was able to afford it to get them to come into the home to give me even an hour after
Wow.
school for him to get an additional support system. So it was tough. Then you're talking about transportation. That was our next tough call. I did get transportation to some appointments, but most of the time I had to be taking taxis because I don't have access to a car. I still don't have one, but at least, I mean, he doesn't manage the train. I guess I just got less. So I don't do much going up because of the financial bearings.
Right.
So it was difficult. By the time you're supposed to think about taking him to do stuff, getting him out, it's too much. All those taxi expenses. And Florida is different. New York, you'll probably have a little shopping mall not too far from the house. Florida is different. You have to drive to the mall, drive to the different stores. So every time I get out, that's additional expenses. Right. And cash assistance and those type of programs, I wasn't aware, because when I do apply for them, they deny them, even with the situation. So it was so different. So coming here now, and then even when all right, so the medical section now, EC is like about 20 different medical team.
Okay.
Because of course you have skull deformity, it's called craniostenosis of the skull. To
Oh,
get those level of team that he needs because it's like his brain, how do I say no? The skull is changing shape. So it's squeezing on the brain. So it's just the brain have just a little space to
God.
occupy. So the
Mhm.
older he grows, like for example, now he's 7. The doctor says like the skull shape. I guess it's the brain. I think the brain stopped growing after probably 13, 14. That would have been the average size brain, something to that effect.
Right.
So if he's 7 now and the space is closing in, it means the brain won't have any space to grow because the brain is still growing.
Right.
So now they would have to eventually now pull the skull apart, like in terms of raise the skull, so
Yeah.
the brain can get more space to breathe. And that's a life and death situation. So I'm waiting for the brain to literally occupy the space. They said they still have a little more space there, so they won't do the surgery yet until it gets more technical. So I'm
Got
waiting for, hopefully, if the brain continues growing, then we'll have to do that. But I won't focus too much on that. So the level of surgeries that he needs, chronic lung disease, breathing, all these things. He had a hole in the heart. All those things we had to work on. We do have good doctors in Florida, but the team, retinologists, we need like a retinologist. We need specific type of people for him. So we had to definitely relocate now to try to find the different specialists, because that was one of the reasons I even moved. The resources was definitely a part of it. So you did mention New York has resources. How
right.
to navigate the resources? They are there. There's a lot there.
There
But
was
if
a
you don't
lot.
have help, yes, if you don't have help to navigate, you won't even know the level of resources that are available. So that's one of the things I learned since I moved. But
That's
definitely resources and the lack thereof, the level of care for a special, especially my child that is so technical, it was
right.
super hard, especially being a single mother, no family member, super difficult. So definitely New York City was definitely the only place I thought of that would make life a little easier for me to get through with him.
Right. I understand. There's a lot going on. And the reason why I wanted to have you on a podcast, not because you also fit the criteria, but that a lot of parents out there who are homeless, I would say, people in general, not even just homeless, people who are just parents of a child with special needs, I know it's hard for them. I know it's hard to find resources. It's also hard just to be taking care of a person who can't take care of themselves. Um, and it can be overwhelming,
Yes.
and I want people to know that you can make it, and it will be hard. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy, and like you said, this is the person you got to take care of until you die or until they die. That's just the fact of the matter, right? And I
Yes.
want people to have hope that it'll be all right. I feel like, especially in children in general, they just have a certain thing about them that they push on through life without knowing they're pushing on through life, and they can bring a joy to your heart. I think is everybody can bring a joy to your heart if they just try, but I feel like they just have a special thing about them in general that they bring to the world, and get people to be aware about certain things we didn't. We're in our own bubbles, I think, everybody. But when you see a person who um has a little bit of struggle and they make it through, and you're like, oh my gosh, if they can make it, I definitely can get myself up and make it, kind of thing. That's how I see it, in a way. I appreciate the work you do, and I know your son appreciates it, of everything that you do, and
Yeah.
you're hardworking. And I know the situation is like your living situation is not the best at the moment, but everything will happen in due time when it has to happen. I'm happy that you came to New York, because compared to, like you said, Florida, they
Yes.
they don't have as much as we do. New York is definitely overcrowded, and there's a lot of things going on here, but we have a lot of resources to help people in general. Sometimes it's hard to get it, and I feel like they put a lot of barriers that you can't get it. Um, but yes, it's definitely, I think, a good move that you made. I
That is,
don't, yes,
that is true. Because even when I came here, we were there for like a couple years. And we have been here like a little over a year.
right,
About, yeah, 16 months to be exact. And what we have accomplished in the 16 months being here could never compete with the couple of years I did in Florida. So,
wow,
yes, yes. And the eye opener for being in New York is like some things like you do some stuff and it's like, I put it like this. I remember, let me see if I can break it down to you. I remember one time, like I'm in Florida and nobody wants Aiden. It's just too much work. But
right,
when I came to New York, I remember seeing a lot of mothers like, oh my God, I wish I had a son like yours. I didn't understand. I didn't understand why. Like, I'm like, are you serious? Like, you'd really want a kid like this? Like, no mother on God's planet would want. But then I realized it was the laziness of their thought. That's why they wanted it. The resources that would have opened doors for them.
right,
So they didn't want him because of his condition. They wanted it because of the beneficial situation that he entails.
wow,
Yes. And that was something because people like, I I wish I had a son like yours. But then after listening to them and hearing the motive behind it, I realized that he still would not have been loved.
Right, exactly.
Yes, so you'd have just dragged him in a situation where, okay, I can probably go to the government and get a place to live.
Right.
Okay, you get this benefits right here. Okay, I can get this person to come in and help. So it's like the resources, it's there.
Right.
And of course, if you know how to tap into the resources, you can never go wrong. I can tell you that much. You can never go wrong. But if you're, especially the persons who take disadvantage of the system, makes it so complex.
Yeah.
For the person who really need it. So that's one of the disadvantages to New York. Because some of the things that I have to grill and go through, I never did that in Florida. And I was like, why? But I realized that so many people, like some person will say, okay, well, I try to pretend to be sick so I can get the disability or whatever. And I'm like, you know how hard it is when I have to go into a place and I have to try to get even a little extra food stamp or something. Even right now, my food stamp is $20.
What?
And $20. I've been getting $20 for the last 16 months. I don't even know why I get $20. And considering he doesn't eat food, I have to make special food because he has severe sensory issues. Right. So hard food, solid food, certain type of stuff he doesn't eat. I have to prepare his food. I still don't know how I get $20. I've tried to query it for and persons who still have disability still gets their regular food stamps. Remember, I can't go out to work. Right. As I said, I applied for Accessoride. They said he wasn't blind enough, so they denied him Accessoride. Accessoride, helps me to get, instead of being, so like, no, this teacher calls me now to go pick up my son. I have to pay, his school is far. I have to pay like literally $150 to get him from school. Accessoride would help me now to at least bridge that gap to go pick him up because it's a ride available for disabled. So now he has to stay there because I can't afford $150 to go pick him up. Right. So I am saying now, when I applied for it, they're like, Mom, I thought being blind was disability enough. That means he's incapable of going anywhere without any form of help because he's blind. That's number one. Your vision is taken, you're literally disabled. Literally. Because if somebody don't feed you, you can't eat. Somebody don't put your clothes on, unless you're trained. Yeah. Not every blind child or every blind person is incompetent. My son has medical disability, which means is the psychiatric side of him makes him incompetent. Right. So he doesn't know the day from the night. So it's not that like I'm dealing with the blind, but I'm dealing with the mental health issues that comes with that. That's a tough part. Because blind children can live good lives. Right. Active life, can do everything. But when you have the mental challenges dealing with, that's where the complication comes from. Right. You see a person out there, they have excellent vision, excellent hearing, but the mental defect is the worst. I tell people, not even my worst enemy, I could wish a mental defect. When you can repair a lot of things and get back your child, once he goes into the mental drive, that's it. Right. That's it. You can't take that back. So for that, no, so that's a tough part for him. So, and then she was like, okay, Mom, I can't lift him up. Sometimes he can't bother to walk because he's blind, so he moves so slow. Right. So I always have a stroller. The stroller broke, and I applied for the housing specialist here. Applied. They told me to apply for Accessoride. I did. They denied it. Oh, he came in a stroller. The baby had a cane. The baby medical record showed over 20 had disabilities, and they still denied him. But somebody else who just has a child with just a little autism, they were given it. They were granted. So I'm saying, if you deny him for being too disabled, I can understand. I have applied to places for my son, and I think because he's too disabled, he was denied. But I thought that it says disability. Right. So how do you deny somebody for too much disability? I thought that person would have been overqualified for the process. Right. Just like I'm applying for OPWDD to get additional resources and help. That takes so many years. And I'm like, what do I do? Yeah, it does. It doesn't matter what document I sent. But then somebody else know my son has autism and she gets OPWDD. But I have a son struggling with that. It's giving me help to get through that gate. So it has its good and it has its bad. Right. Like sometimes if you know somebody that can put you directly to it, it works out better for you. But if like I take myself up and I go in for something, it's hard. I remember one time, even when I was doing food stamp, And I don't remember I don't remember if it was food stamp, but I went to do some paperwork for my son. And it's like when I walked in, the lady looked at me from head to foot. I wasn't wearing no Brazilian hair. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear nails. I don't wear those type of stuff. And I remember the lady looked at me from up to toe and it's like she denied it.
Mm.
And she, I'm telling you, the baby's there with everything. Because one thing what I do, I always take my son. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I take my son. Right? Always. And I realized that once I did that, the lady was judging me from the moment I walked in. She didn't even take a second look at my son. Bear in mind, my son was going off. So, as I said, the system is so cramped with so many persons who come to the system with the wrong, with the misguided thing that, okay, we have the resources, but a lot of persons who deserve the resources is not getting the resources.
You're right.
So that's the tough part about New York, and I can tell you that's hard. I have looked at apartments, and because my son is too disabled, they denied him. And
Mm.
I would have thought that the person would have got preferential treatment. How do you do that? So
Right.
I don't understand. Even though the paper says it's set aside units for persons with severe disability.
Right.
My son covers all three. When I do like any housing program, they give you a paper to fill out. Mobility covers, blindness, deafness. Those are he covers all three. And he still gets denied.
Hey guys, thank you for coming back to hear our voices and listening to part one of this particular episode. Guys, I want you to understand to have a special needs child is definitely not easy. And adding on homelessness is definitely another layer that this family had to go through. But she's making it and she's persevering through it all. So I know if she can do it, you can do it too. I hope this episode gives you hope. Yes, challenges are hard, but she came to the best city, and we're trying our best to work with her over here. Um, but yes, please come back next 2 weeks to hear part two. And after this episode, this will be the end of the season. And next season will be coming back in February. We're trying to come back big and better than ever. We have some tricks up our sleeves, and hopefully everything works out for the best. We are very appreciative of everything that you guys are doing. Please share us on social media as much as you can. Send it to your friends. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. And we'll see you next time. Thank you guys. Bye.